It is rare, it does happen, but it is rare that I cannot form a solid opinion about whether or not I liked a film. And Like a Boss is one that I've watched, well, tried to watch once and then watched a second time all the way through. And I still can't make up my mind what I think of it. This was released in 2020, directed by Miguel Arteta, and stars Tiffany Haddish as Mia Carter and Rose Byrne as Mel Page. Very strong casting. Salma Hayek, who is amazing, but who will also always be free to call out to me, is Claire Luna, an absolutely fantastically performed character. All of the characters are interesting, but I feel like the narrative is a bit all over the place. The casting is great. Jennifer Coolidge, I love Jennifer Coolidge. She's fantastic in this, and is for me the source of the most humor. Depending on your style of comedy, you may agree or disagree. And Lisa Kudrow is also in it for a tiny, tiny second. The narrative is something that could have appealed to me, but I'll get to that in a minute. I just want to talk about the first scenes, and this is why I stopped watching it to begin with. The first scenes are a lot more crude and crass than the rest of the film, and I have nothing wrong with that. That's not something that I think should not be in a film. Absolutely no problems. But sometimes I'm not in the mood for that style of comedy. And the first time I watched it, that was one of those cases. This time, wasn't bothered, kept watching it, and then quickly realised that actually that style of comedy is not maintained throughout. And it actually becomes a bit more meaningful, and it becomes a more I wasn't say very well told story, but a more, what's the word I'm looking for? It becomes better. I'll come back if I can think of the word that's on the tip of my tongue. I'll come back to it. But the introduction is kind of like setting you up for one thing, and what's delivered is the other. The premise itself is something that I find interesting because Mia and Mel run their own cosmetics company. They are quite successful, maybe on the cusp of not having enough money to keep their store open, but they get the opportunity to sell to Claire, and Claire is a big player. She is not a nice person, but she's at the top of her game. One of the friends is curious about this and keen to see what would happen if they sold a share, Mel, and then Mia definitely absolutely does not want to do this. And suddenly the two friends who have been best friends for many years are at this great crossroads in their friendship where they both want different things for their baby, for their company. And it's all about trying to establish what they're going to do, how they're going to progress with it, and how they will overcome this. Will their friendship survive? And what's more important, making money from a business or keeping your friendship? And not only is that a lesson for Mia and Mel, but Claire as well plays an important example of what might happen if you go down one path rather than the other. And I think that that part of it is very clear, it's very well told, it's easy to follow, it's something that I feel a lot of people can relate to, not even as business owners, but when you are, really good friends with somebody and then you both have a very strong difference of opinion, it can throw you into this kind of situation. And for the most part, I found the execution of that concept very enjoyable. I think it's visually beautiful. We have some amazing costumes, some really great personalities there, some brilliant characters. Josh, played by Karan Soni, one of my favourites. I can't put my finger on what it is about that character, but I really thoroughly enjoyed that character, and obviously a fantastic performance as well. Jimmy O Yang is also in this. His character Ron I didn't like, not a nice character, but I'm quite a new fan of his work. He played enthusiastic Zebra in the Lego Movie too, which just amuses me. So the cast definitely kept me going. The characters were fascinating. The narrative was interesting. But the reason I'm on the fence about it is because sometimes I feel like some of the behaviors of the characters were their actions were not necessarily believable, and I feel like certain parts of this were over the top in a way that didn't need to be the case. But for the most part, I'm glad I gave it a second chance. 4.6 out of 10 on IMDb to me is too harsh. I wouldn't necessarily give it more than a 5.5, definitely not more than a 6. I don't usually do number ratings anyway. It was alright. Give it a go, but I think it's got a narrow audience. It's not going to be for everybody, and you have to be in the right mood for it. Ultimately, glad I gave it a second chance, but I can't see myself watching it again.